So today we're going to talk about what a Substack creator's biggest nightmare could be. So imagine this for a sec. You go into Substack on your phone, go to post, and you can post, everything's normal, but then you go onto your laptop to post your newsletter because let's face it, it sucks editing that shit on your phone. You hit copy paste from the Google Doc, Notion, whatever you use, and for some reason it just doesn't copy paste the same way. You got to reformat it. It's annoying. Much easier to do on your laptop, right? Well, anyways, that's what I went to go do earlier this week. I took what I would say a 6-month break from posting on Substack. I've been doing this Substack Live with Bradley here, the Inside the Inbox lives, just to kind of keep things warm and stuff like that so that I'm not exactly completely out. Anyways, I went to go log in through my laptop and it did not work. So a little bit of backstory. About 6 months ago, I decided to put this personal brand that I've been building the last 2.5 years on rest because I decided to go a little bit of a different avenue. Unfortunately, just due to life circumstances, that hasn't quite been working out. So I decided to come back to doing what I was doing originally. But unfortunately, within that time, I let my domain expire, which it was registered through that on my Substack via my Google Workspace email. And unfortunately, the way I had it set up, and I didn't realize up until now, the way I was logging in through Substack was just through my Google Workspaces or like my Google account, right? So like a lot of people could potentially be doing this right now and not even realizing it, right? So let's say you're just logged in through Google and then you hit Substack, it asks you to log in. But when it asks you to log in, sometimes it says log in through Google. If you do that, you do not have a password set up. Now, the issue with that is if your password's not set up and you go to use it on a different platform, on a different laptop, your laptop gets wiped out, or by, God forbid, your Google account gets deleted, banned, whatever, right? All this stuff is possible. It does happen to people every day. You do not have a password set up. And that's what's happened to me right now is I went to go log into my Substack account and it would not let me log in. It said that I had to use a password. Password didn't work because I did not set up a password. I was logging in through my Google. And because it's sending a verification code via email to that account that no longer exists, I cannot get into my Substack account any longer through my laptop. I am literally doing this on my cell phone right now because I can't access my account. So this is the potential nightmare any Substack creator could be in, especially if you've built up a paid newsletter of any sorts. Like you could lose your income, you could lose your account. And I will go into further details of other things that can be done to basically revive your list and all that. But the more important thing that I think I'd like to bring up, and it's something I've been advocating since I've been posting online about having email lists, doing email marketing, period, is backing up your list. It's the number one thing you should do. If you're growing organically, you could probably do it once a month because organic is slow as hell. However, if you're doing ads like I was doing, email solo ads, classified ads in people's newsletters, meta ads, X ads, Google ads, any form of paid acquisition, and you're burning through subscribers, getting them to join your list and deleting them as they come, you need to be backing up your list once a week. Minimum, because like some weeks I would have only 1,500 subscribers engaged, right? I only send to my 60 and 90-day engagers. By the time people go 90 or over, I just pretty much delete them. And I don't am measuring. I've written articles on this in the past, which I'll be bringing to my new Substack. I'll get into that a little bit later in our talk here. But engagement, I do not go by opens. Opens are a complete waste of time. I go by, have I ever seen this person reply to any of my emails, or have they clicked in the last 90 days or 100 days, right? So your average clicks, I know I'm kind of going on random tangents here, bear with me, but the way I look at it is the average CTR of an email is anywhere between 1% to 3%. Let's be conservative and say that the average click rate is about 1%. If that's the case, that means if somebody's been on your email list for 100 days and they're engaged and you're emailing daily, there's a 100% chance that they've clicked on one of your emails within 100 days. If they haven't done that within 100 days, they're probably not an engaged subscriber in any means, or you're potentially talking about topics they're not engaged or interested in. Anyways, that's a different problem, but that's how I do that. Um, that being said, that's how I determine that. So like my email list, I had about probably 3,500, 3,700 email subscribers, but about an engaged segment of about 1,500. And that gets expensive. If you're using expensive email softwares like I was at the time. I don't even remember what my email bill was, but it was into the hundreds of dollars some months. So I decided to just get rid of the subscribers who I didn't have for a very long time that weren't staying engaged. But I did back up that list and put them as an unengaged segment into a CSV so that if I ever did want to re-engage them in any way, I could potentially do that. Never really did anything with it, deleted that list. Just better off not having leads like that around anyways. But I did have a fairly engaged 1,500 person segment. So what I've always advocated is not necessarily doing a scrub the way people would normally do it. Like I just mentioned, I delete people off my list after about 100 days of absolutely no engagement. Unless it's somebody that I know, then I'll send them a personalized email from my domain, not even from my ESP, because then it's coming up as more personalized, just to see if I can get them to talk to me. Because let's say it's somebody like Bradley, we built a relationship, he's on my email list and he's got shit going on in his life. I know that he's been a supporter of mine for years now, but he's like, at least in the ESP showing that nothing's going on there. I would send him a personalized email and be like, hey Brad, just wanted to give you a heads up. I noticed that you're not engaging with my emails, blah, blah, blah. How's things going? Right? Something to that effect, right? Because the last thing you want to do is just delete somebody you know personally on your list, or somebody who has engaged in with your emails in the past. It's probably something's going on in their life. I leave people like that on my list. If it's somebody who's never opened, clicked, or engaged whatsoever with a reply or something like that, I typically delete those people. But that's not a real scrub. A lot of people say, hey, you should scrub your list. You should clean your list. What they do is they go in, they look at the engaged subscribers, people who haven't engaged in 90 days, they delete that. But that is dumb. What you should do is use an actual scrubbing service. There's plenty out there. I don't remember all their names. The one I use specifically, it's called Clean 13. What that does is you upload the entire CSV of your entire contacts off your list. You upload them on that website, and they will ping each and every single one of those emails. I think it's like 3 to 5 times to detect if that email address is still valid. Because that's what's more important. It's not necessarily the fact that you're detecting opens and clicks, because they could be a bot account where it's going to open and click every email, but Gmail, Google knows, Yahoo knows, MSM, Microsoft, whatever you want to call them, they know that it's a bot account. And every time it opens and clicks one of your emails, that's a ding against your sender score. It looks good on your metrics, but it's not good internally, and it ruins your deliverability over time. We've talked about this over several times. I've written articles about it, and also we've even done a Substack live on it. So I'm not going to go in depth there, but that's why you should scrub your list with a real scrubbing service. The other reason is you now have a clean slate of all the contacts on your list. And the nice thing about Clean 13 is if you're stupid, like I have been in the last 6 months, you can go back to your login and see all the lists you've backed up, even client lists. Like, for example, it's a service that I provide when I do somebody's email list management is I will scrub their list once a month, because the last thing I want to do is be maintaining a list for somebody and have their deliverability score get dinged because they have bad contacts, right? Especially the older the list, the more likely it is somebody's potentially abandoned that email address, and now it's just bulking up in their inbox, and then eventually it reaches the point of where it can't take anymore, and Google turns that into what's called a honeypot. So what it sees is that here's an old email address that's been abandoned. Nobody's opening or operating that list, account at all, but you're sending to it. What do you think that does to your deliverability and your sender score? It gets dinged hard, right? So that's another reason to scrub your list. Now, not going to go into more details, but the nice thing about Clean 13 is that it does keep the list of all your contacts. So that's what I've been able to do. I've been able to go in there and just search through the months that I scrubbed my list, which I do once a month. I would always back up my list once a week. And once a month, I would always do a scrub just to ensure that the list is clean and any of the contacts are still good, right? So luckily, I'm able to, I think I've got about 1,200 potential subscribers that I can now upload into a new Substack. Now that brings us to a new problem Still a problem. Is that I have abandoned an email list for 6 months. This is what you like. This is not ideal.
Hmm.
Last thing you should do is just start emailing people. But that's ideally why I did have. I think I'm somewhere just shy of 1,000 subscribers on this Substack account. This is why I still kept doing the lives and sending it as an email notification, is because people see at least once a week or every few weeks, or even notifications from me, period. If they've engaged with me at all, sent me DMs and stuff like that, I do try to get back to people when I get the chance to at least keep this email list kind of remembering me in a way. But you can't just go blasting daily. So the next thing that I'm going to do is start a new Substack account. Of course, I'm going to be uploading all the contacts, because the other thing I wanted to do was I decided to just kill the personal brand, the copy mechanic that I've been doing for the last 2.5 years. The primary reason is copy is not necessarily as respected as it once was, thanks to AI. It's not necessarily the fact that it's not as much of an asset as it once was. It is, if not even more so now than before, because now with the amount of content people can post, um real I'm not even going to say human written content, because this is a topic even Bradley and I were talking about before the call.
Sorry, I
What's
was
the
saying non-slop content, like
non-flop content,
it's
right?
like, that's an asset, because just real quick, copy is more. Before it was less of a commodity, more of a specialized skill. It's not a straight up commodity now. It kind of is in a
No,
sense, but it's not a straight up commodity, because you can get copy, sloppy. I'm trying to find a way to put those together without just being the word sloppy, but slop copy is, commodified, but like good copy is kind of treated a little more commodified these days,
yeah,
even though
yeah.
good copy is still actually an asset, because it's more so because it distinguishes itself from the commodity style copy, the slop stuff. So anyways, keep going.
Yeah, man. So yeah, the fact is, thanks to AI, content, I would say, has become the commodity, not necessarily
Yeah,
sales copy,
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. That's
you
probably better.
you, you can't you can't just go into any AI, not one that's specifically catered to um writing persuasive sales copy, and get it to write something that's 100% persuasive, or as good as a trained professional copywriter would produce, right? Like I've literally taken the time to, like, for example, I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to like damage anybody's reputation, but there is a specific email marketer that's designed a AI tool based on all his formulas, the way he writes and stuff like that, all his emails. And I would say, if you got it to write emails that he'd be writing to his list, it's probably 70 to 80% close to what he would write. However, not everybody's business is catered specifically to a personal brand. And that's, I think, a lot of the problem when people train these AI tools is like, hey, I created an AI tool based off how I write. And yeah, that's cool. It's based off all your emails, the thousands of emails you've written to your own list, but not necessarily to different kinds of um, industries or even people's businesses. And then you go to use it, you upload those emails, you hit send, and then they don't perform. And I've experienced that myself, where I'm just like, okay, this should help me get more client work done. And then I took a bunch of client work on, and then I found myself, I'm spending more time. uh because I'm still doing the initial research. I'm still coming up with the ideas, and then you plant the idea into the tool, which isn't cheap. Like, I think the tool was costing me about $130 Canadian a month, which is like, I don't know, $2 American. That's a joke, by the way. But just by the time you get it to write it, you do the editing, re-editing, send it off to the client. They don't like certain things. You do a revision or two. Like, by the time you're done, you did not save time. Sometimes I find, especially with the AI stuff. Whereas, like, especially if it's a client that you've written for for a while, I find it's almost not helpful at all, unless you have like a data asset of like the emails that have worked for that specific email list, written by the client, or even for whatever period of time. It can be helpful, but yeah, you can't just go in there and just bust out sales copy and go. There's a reason why copywriters like us still spend hundreds, if not thousands every year on courses. Yes, courses aren't 100% dead, but prompt packs and stuff like that too. Like the last AI related product I bought was, I'll just say it was by John Benson, who's like the godfather of doing VSLs. He's the creator of the VSL, and he had one of his products on special. It was probably a year or so ago, and it was still like $500. I spent $500 literally on like 7 prompts, but they're designed to help you get a VSL done. That's like 4,000 words. But the thing is, by the time you're done with that hodgepodge of words and you've edited it down, like you're still spending a lot of time doing it. What a lot of people don't realize is like it's the editing that makes the copy good, not necessarily just pumping out the words, right? But yeah, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. But
maybe foreshadowing of what we might talk about in a future episode.
yeah, exactly. We'll get into more of that on another episode, but just to stay more so on the topic here of Substack creators' nightmares, not being able to log in. Make sure that you back up your email list. Keep CSVs of it, back it up in several sources too, because if you have it saved to your actually, I just came up with an idea because I may have backed up that few of my list backups on Google Sheets on a cloud. So I probably have a few more larger segments of lists on the cloud on another account. So good thing we're doing this live, because that probably just saved me a couple hundred subscribers too. But yeah, exactly why I brought up, make sure that you are saving it in several different sources, like your laptop, a cloud of some sort, even a USB stick that you lock up somewhere, whatever it is your asset. But yeah, and then something we'll dive into more another time, because I don't want this to become too long-winded, is how to revive a list that you've abandoned. A lot of people like doing re-engagements. I personally hate them. I don't find they work that well. I like to do, like, for example, some people just send a, hey, are you still interested in blank, right? Like with a question, but you haven't actually sent them anything in a long time. They might not be interested, but the clever way I've heard go about it, which I heard, it's from a podcast called the Email Marketing Show. There's a English guy by the name of Kennedy. He does it. He does a great job. I've talked to him a few times. His stuff's really, really good. And he says he sends a initial email that's pretty much like, I messed up, or I've been a terrible friend, or I fucked up, whatever. And it's not necessarily an apology email, but it's just a like, heads up, I'm going to be emailing again. Here's what happened. If you're still not in, if you're interested, stay tuned. If not, feel free to unsubscribe. Always tell people that they're free to unsubscribe. Never make them feel like they got to stick around, because that's the other problem with a backed up list. And that's another reason why I'm going to start first on Substack before I move this list onto an actual marketing list platform again, like ConvertKit, Berserker Mail. Haven't decided which one yet. But if you backed up your list, for example, my last backup was probably about a month or two before I stopped posting on Substack. The issue with that is people could have potentially unsubscribed from your email list since your last backup. But because you backed them up, you still have them as a contact, as a subscribed subscriber. So when you put them onto a list, if you start emailing them again, that's technically illegal. So there's what's that?
Actually. So because one of my clients, I have to, because they're moving from Kit to Klaviyo, and for some reason they still are on Kit. I keep asking them, are you guys done with Kit yet? So every week, since we send a weekly newsletter, I have to move these people over. And in Klaviyo, there's a thing that's like, update. When you do that as part of the import process, basically either you import them, or I'm like adding them to like the main list. Like we're mailing a list, and I just add these people to like the main list of, it's like over 100,000 people basically. It's a big personal brand. But there's a stage where it's like update their status to subscribe, yes or no. And so they subscribed on ConvertKit. So I will move them over and intrinsically say yes, because this is every week. These are people who are subscribing. I suppose there's someone who may unsubscribe in there. I don't know if that's because they're subscribed. They get on via the form. but they get on specifically to get this newsletter. But since I do this every week, they haven't got one yet. So the assumption is they're subscribing, they want to, and then so we do that. Although I can't, I think I usually say no. I think I say no. I can't remember if I say no because it's already there. Yes, but basically that way they get the first one. If they want to unsubscribe, then they can do that. But if we mail them after that, then but that you can't do that. But like I think I say update to yes, maybe not. I don't know. I have to go back and look at my process again for doing that. But Klaviyo does have a feature like that. So I would think if you have like you take them off of the actually the problem with that might be if you have like a column that's like subscribe equals yes, and then I guess if they do unsubscribe, they're still counted as subscribed in the spreadsheet. You put them in the Klaviyo and it's that you say no, I don't want to update them all to subscribed. Well, someone who unsubscribed from you is now going to be subscribed to you because the document says it. So I just thought for a second there, I'm like, wait, maybe no, it's still, you still have to, you have to be extra careful about that. I guess in my situation it's different because these people are quite literally, the whole point of them, they would have opted into our Klaviyo form if we had a Klaviyo form set up. But right now we still have Kit form set up. So the implication here is these people are subscribing specifically for this newsletter. And so we move them over, auto update to yes. When they get the first one, then they can unsubscribe and then we don't mail them anymore because they're now suppressed. And so, I mean, that's, I use that example to say that like Klaviyo does have a feature that can help. Like I think maybe other email softwares have that kind of thing too, but it has a thing where like you can say either yes, update them all to subscribe, because there are certain use cases for that where like you're moving a list of people who had just subscribed over, like in this case. And then there's also no, don't subscribe. Like if you're I don't know if there's if you're moving, I suppose like you're moving a list from Kit that is older, like it's not people who just joined every week. It's like your list you've had forever and there's people unsubscribe. You want to move everyone over, so you have everyone in the database, but you don't want to update everyone to yes, they're subscribed, because there are people in there that you want for the sake of knowing you have them in your database, but you want them suppressed. So you want them not mailable so that, but they're still there, right? So I think some softwares may assist with making sure that, like Klaviyo does, it assists with making sure that people don't like accidentally get marked as subscribed and can receive email when they've explicitly opted out of that process. And also I believe in Kit anyways, if they subscribe and then they unsubscribe, they're not going to be like in that segment as well, because the segment I have created is like when people are subscribed to the segment on or after this date, but then if they're no longer subscribed, I believe it removes them anyway. So if they unsubscribe before I move them over, they're not going to be on that, that chunk of people I'm moving over anyway. So, and the funny thing about that, since I have to do this every week, I have a spreadsheet of these names by like week, basically. So if something does happen, you gave me an idea. That's something I have to say. That's a smart idea. I'm going to actually bring that to my client and be like, hey, we should be, I'm going to start backing the list up every week, because they have like a few hundred people basically every week that I move over. And so that's not a huge percentage of 100, 120, 100, whatever thousand people, but it would make sense to back up maybe bi-weekly, I suppose. But I mean, that process doesn't it takes time because it's a lot of names, but you just file, export, CSV, boom. And then
it takes seconds.
Which again, to anyone who listens to this, anyone listening to this, it's usually that easy. I mean, you want to make sure like the file formats, properly, and then you want to make sure it goes somewhere. It's not going to like get deleted or anything. Like you said, you could, maybe back up, make a copy of the backup, maybe make a third copy and put it on the thumb drive. Depending on how concerned you are about these things, right? There's, you could kind of have like, what is it? You have the backup, the copy of the backup. So you have two of them there, and then you maybe have a third one on a thumb drive. And now like, if like you said, if you are a big Substack creator or something like that, or anything, you have this big email list and something like maybe you have the problem you had, Pete, where it's like now you can't log into your Substack, but let's say you have like 1,000 paying subscribers or something. Well, 1,000 paying subscribers at maybe, let's say $5 a month. If that's your income, $5,000 a month or a significant portion of it, and now you can't get in, it's like, but then what if your backup gets deleted? That's why, it doesn't take that long. Like the export process, the loading, there's a bazillion names, but you only have to do like, what is it? Like wherever the button is, file, export, and you're done. So there's really no reason not to be doing this basically every week. If you really, if you really want to be absolutely certain that, you're not going to lose your whole list to some stupid, like modern security features that seem to only lock me out more often than they lock out the bad people.
Yeah. And also, remembering, since we're talking Substack is social media now with email list as a bolt-on, right? Because you could have more followers now than subscribers. So they've changed it from just being an article writing newsletter bolt on to it's got a social media feed, and that's how people are able to subscribe so easily, right? So it's got a lot of pluses because of that, but the biggest thing now is because it's like social media, all it takes is some stakeholders to decide, hey, you know what, we want to be more left leaning, and somebody who's got a right leaning newsletter all of a sudden gets tanked or banned, or you say the wrong thing, and now all of a sudden your reach is gone, right? So, or your emails don't get sent, because that's another thing that can happen too, or your open rates get dinged because it's being throttled, right? Because that's possible too, right? Somebody could have the same number of email subscribers as you, but an open rate that's nearly double, because you don't know if Substack is actually sending all your emails, right? Because that's another thing, is you can't send a test email from here. This is not a real email platform. It's email marketing as a bolt-on, not a primary driver, right? And that's another reason why I always suggest people having a domain, having it warmed up in some way, and actually having a real ESP, even if it's free, like ConvertKit. I think your first 1,000 subscribers, you can
It's,
have.
I think the first 100, because I have to pay for the full on, and they just raised the price quite a bit
Of
like
course,
last year. They went from
of
like
course,
20 bucks to like 84 a month because they, I don't know, like again, some of these SaaS companies, they're like, they start I've had clients before that were charging like $10 a month for stuff that should be charging $80 a month for, not SaaS, but some of these SaaS companies, they come in, they're like, what do we charge for this? And then, suddenly one day they're like, hey, we're jumping the price from $20 to 84. I'm like, well, I have a whole course on how to increase prices without pissing customers off. And obviously they did not take the course, because you do not just spring a, 24, what is that, 4x and then a little bit more. You don't just bring that on your customers, but that's beside the point. ConvertKit's still good. It's just, that's beside the point. That's,
how much are you paying for ConvertKit now?
I want to say it's 84 a month, or 80 a month or something like that. Maybe it's 64. It's one of those two, but I remember when it was like 20 or 25 or something. And I didn't go up in plans. It's just like, I remember them announcing that they had to raise it. And they just basically said like operational costs and stuff, which again is justifiable, I suppose. But if there actually are, but again, like I have a whole course on how to do this properly, a whole template on how to do this properly. Not trying to sell people on it, but I do. Maybe they should, maybe someone at ConvertKit should buy it. But I had another point on the deliverability. Oh yeah, I was going to say, I almost just I reverse engineered the suppressed profiles from first principles in my head. I basically said, what if you're just like all the people who go beyond like 90-day engage? What if you just like you said, so that you're not paying for them, just export them into a sheet for later? And I'm like, wait a second, you can just suppress those people in Klaviyo. You don't have to because you're talking about like you want it, like you had that list, but once you export them and then like delete them from your list, they subscribed at one point, but I guess they didn't have a chance. Then that becomes a kind of a gray area, because they didn't have a chance to unsubscribe, but they may have wanted to, and then so that might be a difficulty as well. But like I'm trying to think if there's some way to game the email software to like some people who are not engaged, you just remove them from your list, but not permanently, so that later you can reactivate them. I'm trying to think if there's a way to game the software pricing systems, but maybe there isn't. I might have thought of that before I did. But I mean, it's kind of connected to the same idea of exporting people. Like you said, you exported them because like you want to save them some, or wait, did you, or maybe you said did you say you did export them, or you should have exported them? I can't remember if that's.
No, I did export them, because if you're paying for all your contacts on your list, and you got a 3,000 person list and only 1,000 are engaged,
Okay.
There's no point having 2,000 unengaged subscribers that have joined your list over the years or whatever. Just export all those contacts, and then there's almost no point doing that. It's more of a pride thing, I would say, when you keep those contacts, because like if they were interested, they'd be at least showing an open periodically, or at least a click, or at least replying once in a while too, right?
Yeah, and I suppose you don't want to if you like go like semi-dormant like that, you don't want to just like delete those. Like even if you think you're like shutting down a personal brand, you never know. So like if it's like in this case, it never hurts to just file export, if that's what you're doing, file export, save it somewhere safe, and then if you do like you come back to it later, you don't have to like piece everything together from scratch or whatever. Like in this case, going back to the beginning, like yeah, you have the whole problem of trying to get back into Substack. You're locked out of your account, but you've exported the people, so it's not like if something goes wrong and you can't get, like, you still have those people somewhere. There may be some little cleanup to do if like someone unsubscribes or whatever, but like you still have that list, and so you when things like this happen, it's not, things are backed up so that you don't have to worry about losing all the subscribers and starting from scratch or anything like that, which would be very annoying because you know how to build a list now, obviously, from doing it, but it's still, as everyone knows, it's still the hardest when you have zero. Like going from like 0 to 100 subscribers is like way harder than going from like 100 to 200.
The first 1,000 subscribers is difficult. Getting from 1,000 to 2 feels like it happens overnight. From 2,000 to 5,000 feels like a crawl again. And then I've heard once you get to 5,000, the next step's like 8,000, 10, and all that. By that point, you're making all kinds of money. You should be spending money on ads at that point, in my opinion. But I would say the first 1,000, it feels like it takes forever. And then you get to 1,000, you're like, oh, awesome. And the next minute, you're at 1,800 and you're just shy of 2,000. You're like, holy crap, that happened fast. Because at that point,
network effect, it's a ceiling, and then you have to break through a ceiling to get to the next network. That's why you hit 1,000, and then everything starts going because you built up all this content and you built, maybe you've been on podcast, you have like all this stuff out there. Like my email list is like doubled in the last month or whatever, because my Substack's starting to pick up traction. So, I mean, it's a little over 200 people now, just full disclosure.
Right.
Actual list, Substack list is a little smaller because some people have unsubscribed from one list, want to be on the other, or vice versa, which, I don't, you can be on either one. I don't really care. But, because it starts to pick up. Like, I'm still not going towards, 1,000 super fast, but at least kind of. I mean, like, the network effect is starting to kick in. So, it does. But I mean, a little off topic, but yeah.
Yeah. Now, the main thing I wanted to bring up before we sign off here is my thinking process about starting on Substack before moving to a marketing list. First is I want to export all the contacts that I had on hand, because they did subscribe to my newsletter and they never unsubscribed, is to import them all to my new Substack. And then I'm going to be emailing from there for about a month. I'm going to start slow, probably do 3 a week, then 5 a week, then bump myself up to 7 a week again. Do that for about a month. And within that period of time, I'm going to buy a new domain. Haven't decided on what yet. It's probably just going to be my name. And then use a warm-up service to warm up that domain. Now, within that period, I'm going to have analytics from Substack to see who's been the most engaged people. And then what I'm going to do at that point is move only the engaged subscribers, export them from Substack onto the marketing list, where I'm going to then email the 7 days a week like I usually do, and then back off the posting schedule on Substack, at least via email, so that I'm not emailing people twice in one day from two different ESPs. That would be annoying. And then just do like what I was doing before, which I was doing 6 emails a week from my ESP, one big long blog post style newsletter from Substack on Sundays with a click driver style email sent from my ESP, just to get people who may not be on my Substack to click through the Substack to read it in case they didn't see it. And that was pretty much, that's the strategy. But at least at that point, I can have a warmed up domain. And then if people want to unsubscribe because they haven't heard from me in a while and I started emailing aggressively, they're going to unsubscribe, at least from my Substack, because the last thing I want to do is export 1,800 subscribers, let's say, put it on a new marketing list, start blasting right away and get all kinds of spam complaints. Doing it this way is going to protect my new domain and get people used to seeing me again. So that's a strategy. I'll dive into that a little bit more in another episode, where I'll actually talk about, maybe I'll even have it set up on my laptop so that I can actually show people, hey, here's me setting up the ESP, here's me linking it, doing the DNS settings and all that, so that you can do your own deliverability management into the actual domain. Here's how to set up Google workspaces. Here's how to do this so that you can keep track of all your spam complaints, the right codes to get for both MSM and Yahoo, put it into your ESP and your domain so that you can then track spam complaints, because a lot of time you can see spam complaints are getting triggered, but you don't know from who. But if you set up the right coding in your domain, you can actually see it and get it reported to your email to know to delete those people off your list so that you're not emailing them anymore. I know that's a little bit long-winded, but that's something we could potentially do one time. If anybody's interested in that, let us know. And then I'll actually show how to set up a warm-up service, how to set up all that with the right coding and all that in your domains. And then it'll actually tell you that you're now placing over 90% in the inbox. And then that means you're ready to start blasting normal marketing emails. Anyways, all topics we'll get into in another time, but I think we're good tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we covered the idea pretty well. Exporting your list, back things up. Same thing as, it's just like, back up your computer or phone in general. It's the same thing here. Like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, your email list, whether it's a Substack email list or it's like your email list, because it's Substack, it's not like the same thing, but it's still an email list, whether it's that or it's like a ConvertKit or a Klaviyo one. It's important to just back things up especially because if you're an online business owner, there's a good chance that if you're doing, if you're actually maximizing your email marketing, if you're not, then, I mean, your first step is to start mailing your list, build the flow, do all the stuff that, I would do for a client, right? But if you are already doing that, well, obviously that email list, very critical asset in your business. It's usually a buyer's list, and that a lot of people on there are repeat customers that you're continually communicating with them. You don't want to leave that up to some SaaS program, or some platform like Substack, a SaaS software like ConvertKit or Klaviyo. You always want to back these things up, and as the more what's the word, analog you can go at, analog as in like a thumb drive. Ideally, maybe you have a digital copy as well. It always pays to be safe. I mean, so
Yeah, man.
it doesn't take that. It's not that hard. File export it, duplicate that, and then plug in the thumb drive, drag it into the thumb drive, eject the thumb drive. Every week, what is it, like 5 minutes, depending on how long the export takes, I suppose. While the export's going, you can, I don't know, go eat dinner or something, or go eat lunch. Or go do another tab. That's usually what I do. So
yeah, you don't need to be waiting there when it's doing the backup. You could just like click backup and go do something else. Or because you probably have, if you're anything like us, you probably have 27 tabs open. You can go
work on something else.
to one of the other tabs, right? So like just pick up the backup, hit wherever your download folder is, and then you'll have like a long list of them. Doesn't matter. They don't take up that much space on your computer anyways. But yeah.
Some software will email it to you. Like with ConvertKit, my email is attached to the client. So it'll email their kit export to me of those specific people. But it's still like, it waits a little bit, and then I get an email notification. I see in my inbox, it pops up there. So like, I can work on something else for a few minutes. So yeah, back your list up regularly. If you get, like Pete said earlier, if you're growing really slowly, probably once a month is, really all you need. Once you do it once and you have 5 people join over the month, but if you're running ads, you're doing kind of lots of people coming in, lots of people unsubscribing, you have a big list. Like my client, you probably want to do it every week. Just be
basically just ask yourself, how long do you have to wait for it to hurt?
Yeah. It's a good way.
Right. So like if it's once a week, it's like, hey, you know what? I just went up 100 subscribers this week and I spent $400 on ads. That would hurt. But if you're going up 100 subscribers a month and all you're doing is posting online, do you have to back it up once a week? Probably not. Do it once a month. Don't, like, if it feels like a chore, don't do it. But if it's something where it's itching at you and you think that you should probably do it, just freaking do it. It's cheap insurance. It's free to do it. And then it'll potentially save you, if you have a real email list and a real offer and you're making money online, it's going to save you thousands of dollars just to take 5 minutes of your time to do that, right? Everybody does all the other sexy tactics and all this other stuff. This is probably the number one thing you should be doing often. Right.
And
but yeah,
do an assistant. If you have, like, if I might start doing this in my own list once a month, and I can just tell my VA to be like, hey, new task for you once a month.
It's just one of the tasks,
big deal,
right?
It costs me like a dollar or something over time, like, or some tiny amount. So anyways, I think we've covered it all. So
yeah, man. All right, cool.
All
right. Thanks everyone.
Yeah.
See you guys next week.
See y'all.